Welcome back to another segment of Behind the Scenes of the Waltons, Ask Judy. If you're enjoying these videos, please do like and subscribe. So one of the things I've been asked at times is how aware we were of the impact of the series. And early on, I wouldn't say beyond getting fan mail, of which we got a lot, there wasn't a lot of personal contact with fans. We were not a show that was filmed in front of a live audience, so we just went about our business and did the show, and unless we were out at some sort of a publicity event, really didn't have an opportunity to find out the kind of impact the show was having. And even during the run of the show, although we came to realize as we went up in the ratings and sat in, number one, number two, within the top 5 for years, we were aware the show was popular, and so when we went out, we would get a lot more attention and people wanting autographs and pictures and stuff like that. But I think the real sense of the long-term impact of the show, we've gotten more and more since the series has ended and since we have been out and about to interact with those of you who have talked about the impact the show has had on you and your lives. And that is so heartwarming to all of us. And it's very humbling to hear that something that we created now nearly 50 years ago has endured in this way. So we're very proud of that. So today I was also going to touch on some of the different types of publicity events that we did. One that really stands out for me was Will Geer had been invited to participate in some sort of a fundraising event at the Hollywood Bowl. Now, the Hollywood Bowl is this huge outdoor amphitheater in Hollywood, and I mean thousands of seats. I couldn't even tell you how many thousands of seats, but big outdoor, amphitheater. And he invited the children, the Walton children, to participate in this event that he had been invited to be a part of. And me and Mary and Cammie, so Mary Ellen, Elizabeth, and Aaron, the 3 of us did a scene, the witches scene from Macbeth, and double toil and trouble. We did that scene, and it's the first time I'd ever done any Shakespeare, so it's like I have done Shakespeare at the Hollywood Bowl. It sounds really impressive. It's not nearly as impressive as it sounds, but it was a real honor. And the boys were involved in some other kind of a sketch, and evidently we brought Blue the mule with us, and there was an entrance with the mule, and so it was quite a deal. And I remember being really starstruck by some of the people that were there at this event. There was one big dressing room for the women and probably one big dressing room for the men. And I remember Jean Stapleton from Archie Bunker, asking me to help her put on body makeup because what she was wearing was sleeveless, and so parts of her arms and back were showing, and she couldn't get to them. And so I helped her put makeup on, which was quite exciting. And I remember meeting Roddy McDowell, and he was friends with Richard Thomas. And I think Richard might have been part of this as well. But Roddy McDowell was there, and he was going to be doing something in his Planet of the Apes makeup, which took hours to put on. But I was so fascinated by that and seeing him in his Planet of the Apes makeup. So there were those wonderful, wonderful moments. And that's, I think, sometimes one of the things about being in the public eye, being a celebrity, so to speak, are those opportunities that you get to do things and meet people and interact in situations that would never have come to me had I not been doing the Waltons. So it's just one of those really lovely perks that I've always enjoyed. Another publicity event I did was with Cammie Kotler. She and I went out to Aurora, Ohio to open up a section of a SeaWorld out there. And I remember it was summer. It was really hot. It was super humid, which we don't have a lot of humidity in Los Angeles, so I wasn't really used to that kind of humidity, but it was fun. It was like a new children's section at SeaWorld, and so we got to cut the ribbon on that. I did some sort of an an event at a circus, and Michael and I rode an elephant as we made our entrance into the center ring. And I think a couple of the other Walton kids were there too. I think, I'm not quite sure who was. I think Cammie might have been there. I'm not sure who else, but that was my first time riding an elephant. So that was fun. In later years, also still during the Waltons, I had an opportunity to do a guest appearance at a circus back east, a Shriners Circus, and I sang a couple songs. And that was really exciting to be in the center ring and sing to this huge audience. It made me really nervous. I was not that experienced singing in front of crowds, so but it seemed to go well. So I was relieved about that, and meeting all the circus performers was really fun. Getting to go kind of behind the scenes of the circus and meet them, these wonderfully talented athletes and their animals, and there's some beautiful horses that were so well trained. So I remember that one. Another event that some of the Waltons did together was some sort of celebrity sports competition. I know I had done 3 Battle of the Network Stars as part of the CBS team, and I'd also done Celebrity Circus of the Stars. I did a couple of those. So I'll talk about some of those perhaps in another segment here. But this one it was me and Eric and Mary and David and Tony Becker, who played Drew. And we competed against some other show teams and stuff. And again, we didn't do very well in that particular event, which is probably why I don't even remember what it was. I tend to block out the things that weren't triumphant sometimes. But we had fun. And, it was a number of different sorts of athletic competitions, some running, some swimming, and things like that. There was also an event which was really an honor at the Smithsonian. The Smithsonian did an evening honoring the Waltons, and there was a Q&A session, and both Michael Learned and Patricia Neal were there with all of us Walton kids. And I believe at that point was when I had heard that the radio from the Waltons was in the Smithsonian. I don't know if it's still there or if it was a temporary loan, but to do an evening at the Smithsonian was quite something. Shortly after the Smithsonian event, we embarked on a Walton Cruise where a number of fans came along to join us, and a lot of the cast was there, including Michael Learned and including Patricia Neal. So that was pretty special to get to spend a few days with Patricia Neal again. And we interacted with the fans. We did, autograph signings. We did a question and answer. We had 2 teams, and they competed on different questions about the Waltons. And I think the only reason why the Waltons beat the fans was because there was a number of us together, and so collectively we could get the answers. But I find most of the time you fans know so much more of the details of the show these days than I can remember, because I haven't watched the episodes for some time. So I'm loving doing these YouTube videos because it's giving me an opportunity, an excuse to have to go back and watch some of these episodes so that I can talk about them. A few other publicity events I recall. A number of us from the cast were at the unveiling at a wax museum of a W.C. Fields wax figure. So we went down there and we had pictures taken with this wax figure of W.C. Fields, and I think Will Geer was quoting various different W.C. Fields quotes to us about it all. So that one was fun. I remember the Waltons doing Family Feud, and we played against the Dukes of Hazzard, and they kicked our butts, which was kind of embarrassing, but there you go. Sometimes you win, sometimes you lose. Another publicity event I remember doing was with John Walmsley. The network, CBS, would send actors, stars from their various different TV shows out to do what they called a press junket with the affiliates. John and I went to Chicago and Atlanta. The local networks from a given area would set up in a hotel room. And John and I would go from hotel room to hotel room, and we would record like video, various different little teasers. So we might say, John and I might go, hi, I'm Judy Norton, Mary Ellen from the Waltons, and I'm John Walmsley, Jason on the Waltons, and we want you to watch the Waltons on blah, blah, blah station at, 8 o'clock. But sometimes the things that they wrote for us to say were a little odd. The one that stands out to me the most was one time there was something about, did you ever wonder if when a Walton gets old, they wither up and die or something like that? Well, we're all alive and well on Thursday night on the Waltons. I mean, it was just like, John and I were kind of like, really? They want us to say what? Who wrote this? But we were young, and we pretty much just did what we were told, and hopefully they didn't come across as odd to the audience as they were to us. So those are a few of the various different publicity things I remember. Besides doing lots of parades and going out and doing autograph signings at various different places, those were some standouts for me. So thank you for joining me. I will be back with more behind the scenes of the Waltons, talking about various different episodes, and I will be taking more of your questions and expounding on various different topics related to the Waltons and my life and some of the rest of the cast and all of that in future segments. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.